Respected teachers and all my dear friends, my name is Archit Isham. Welcome to my presentation. Today, I am going to give you an introduction to mathematics. First of all, let us look at the contents of this presentation. We will begin by a very basic introduction to mathematics, after which we will explore the various fields and various branches in mathematics. We will one by one look at these branches. The first one will be pure mathematics, then applied mathematics, followed by engineering mathematics, statistics, mathematical modeling. We will end this presentation with operation research. Please note that these branches are not mutually exclusive of each other. The world of mathematics is like a web. So these various branches who have different applications very often interact with each other. For example, a field which may be usually categorized in statistics may also find a use in engineering mathematics or mathematical modeling. So what exactly is mathematics? Well, there is no one way to define mathematics, nor can we write down the definition in one paragraph. Mathematics is something we have always learned from a very young age. It can so we began learning mathematics by numbers. The first thing that was taught to us was numbers, but slowly we came to know that mathematics is basically observing a pattern in something. So the closest definition of mathematics, which can be enclosed in one line, is it can be best defined as the science of logics and analysis. The logics of mathematics are concerned with the logic of shape, quantity, and arrangement. So Pythagoras was the one who coined the term mathematics, which meant learning. Now, Pythagoras was very fascinated by mathematics. This was because mathematics provided a sense of certainty. Something which was proved in mathematics is correct, it cannot be unproved. Well, this is in contrast to our sensory knowledge. For example, things we see and things we hear, because we know what optical illusions are. What we see is not necessarily the truth. So our sensory knowledge is falsifiable. But mathematics is a very certain field of knowledge. This fascinated Pythagoras. In fact, Pythagoras was so fascinated by mathematics that he, along with his followers, began worshipping numbers. So Pythagoras formed a cult with his followers, who were known as the Pythagoreans, and they began worshipping numbers. Then, now there is this quote: "The universe cannot be read until we have learnt the language and become familiar with the characters in which it is written. It is written in mathematical language, and the letters are triangles, circles, and other geometrical figures, without which means it is humanly impossible to comprehend a single word." This very famous quotation comes from Galileo Galilei. We all know that he was a great physicist and he has made remarkable achievements in the field of physics. One most remarkable one being the invention of pendulum. But Galileo was also a great follower of mathematics, and he stated basically what is written in the above lines is that mathematics is the language of philosophy and universe. And one knows mathematics, unless one can speak mathematics, it is impossible for him to learn about philosophy and universe. So, how exactly did maths begin? What was the beginning of mathematics? Now, it comes as no surprise to anyone that mathematics began as an applied field. So, mathematics was born out of the need to count things, as the need to count cattle, the need to count money, the need to measure time, what time it was. And one of the major reasons for development of mathematics in geometrical field was also mathematics was being used as a tool for calculating areas of fields. So this was basically the story of Egypt. In Egypt, there were fields by the river Nile, and since the Nile often flooded, it often washed away the boundaries of the fields. So mathematics was used as so people calculated the area of their fields so that after this, if Nile washed away the boundaries, there would be less dispute in knowing what the boundaries of one's field were. So this is how mathematics began. It began as an applied field. People wanted to use it in their daily life. But soon enough, mathematics emerged as a field for research purposes. Archaeological surveys shows that Mesopotamian scribes developed methods for solving many problems that had no immediate practical application. So even in the early civilization, mathematics had become an applied as well as theoretical field. So also applied mathematics was the prominent one, but the scribe writers in those time, they were the one who ventured into mathematics as a theoretical field. Now let us take a look at the branches of mathematics. So for this brief discussion, we can divide mathematics into two fields, pure mathematics and applied mathematics. Now let us have a look at each of them. Pure mathematics is the study of abstract concepts of maths without any motivation for their application in real life. These concepts may originate in real world concerns, and the results obtained may later turn out to be useful for practical applications. But the pure mathematicians are not primarily motivated by such applications. So, the key point here is that there is no motivation for their application in real life. So even though these problems may later become very relevant and these problems may later find a very prominent use in our society, but even then, if they were not solved with the but even then, if in the earlier times they were not solved with the motivation of their application in real life, they are considered pure mathematics. Now, what is considered as abstract today may find integral applications in future, as I said. So let us take an example. The branch of mathematics known as number theory was once considered useless, but it now plays a vital role in computer encryption systems. So in this way we can see that number theory was a branch of pure math, was a study under the branch pure mathematics, and it was once considered useless because no one thought that numbers had this great of a role. But now in computer encryption, number theory is one of the most important subjects. Same can be said about other fields such as um, fractions. So Mesopotamians used to learn fractions just for fascination, but in modern life, fascinations are a very integral part of our life as well. Now let us look at what applied mathematics is. Applied mathematics is a branch of mathematics which deals with those concepts of maths which find application in various fields. These areas are usually science and engineering. This is particularly of great importance in engineering, as applied mathematics enables development and improvement of methods or finding new methods to face new challenges and problems. So basically applied mathematics is very simple. We can figure out from its name that these the study of these fields are motivated by our desire to find the solution of a problem in real life, and these are used in areas of science and engineering. In fact, we all know that mathematics is a very integral part of engineering. So that is engineering mathematics, which I will elaborate on later. But so this is applied mathematics. Now let us look at the difference between applied mathematics and pure mathematics. Not so the key difference is the concept of applied mathematics are studied in real life with the with and developed with the intent of their application in real life. For example, for example, the mathematics which is used in the study of mechanics, or let us say let us say vectors. So vectors were studied because their application was found in things such as forces. So the study of vectors was a branch of applied mathematics because it was motivated by the study of by the requirement of physicists to calculate forces, since forces are a vector quantity. Now pure mathematics is the motivation of this study does not depend upon the applications in real life. For example, calculus when first learned, by Sir Isaac Newton or Leibniz was of no practical use in real life. But today, calculus finds very important roles in our daily life, especially in engineering, which has huge implications. So this picture represents pure mathematics and applied mathematics. Although the truth is that there is no fine line of separation. What is pure mathematics today can be applied mathematics tomorrow. So, although this figure gives us a brief idea, the thing is that we cannot say that algebra is pure mathematics because it does have application in applied maths. Similarly, about number theory and geometry. So, this figure shows the difference between pure mathematics and applied mathematics. Now this one is a map of mathematics. As you can see, there are various fields in this, and the best thing about this is that there is no fine line between pure mathematics and applied mathematics. These concepts are these concepts are intermingling with each other. So this is basically, and what is pure mathematics today may be applied mathematics tomorrow. This figure shows the same. In this figure, white represents applied mathematics and black represents pure mathematics. So as you can see, applied mathematics has a bit of pure mathematics in it and pure mathematics has a bit of applied mathematics in it. So these are two very interrelated fields. We cannot draw a line between them and say that no, calculus is simply pure mathematics. So as I discussed earlier, since calculus was discussed as calculus was developed as a field of pure mathematics. But as you can see in this diagram, differential equations are present under the subcategory of applied mathematics. So what was once a part of pure mathematics is no longer. This just shows that these fields of maths are interrelated. Now let us look at engineering mathematics. So as the name pretty much suggests, engineering mathematics is a branch of applied mathematics which is concerned with the use of certain mathematical methods and techniques used in engineering and related industries. And obviously, since this is used in engineering, it is obviously a branch of applied mathematics. Engineering mathematics is similar to other fields of science which aid engineering. For example, engineering physics and engineering geology. Engineering mathematics is an interdisciplinary subject motivated by engineers' requirement both for practical and theoretical purposes. So, like just what we learned in this one was that just like engineering mathematics, there are other branches of science which are developed just for the reason of helping engineering, them being engineering physics and engineering geology. And these subjects are primarily studied by engineers for solving their engineering problems. In the larger classification of engineering, engineering mathematics is indispensable study for engineers, which means that this is very important. Now let us have a look at the major disciplines in engineering mathematics. So the first one is linear algebra, then there is calculus, then there is statistics and numerical methods. We will learn about statistics and numerical methods later in greater detail. Now there is discrete mathematics. So discrete mathematics is the study of discrete elements and it is a very big subtopic, but it is included in engineering mathematics. Now discrete mathematics has these topics are contained within discrete mathematics. They are propositional and first order logic, set theory, combinatorics, probability, graph theory. Now let us have a brief look one by one at all of these topics. First of all, linear algebra. So as the name suggests, linear algebra, quite simply put, is the branch of mathematics concerning with linear equations. So for a simpler explanation, let us have a look at the linear algebra analysis concerned with a system of three linear equations in distinct variables. Now there are only three equations and three variables. So when we plot them on a Cartesian plane, we get 8 possible scenarios. It is also amusing to note that with only three equations and only three variables, of we get eight possible scenarios. So the first diagram depicted here is that all of these have a unique solution. The second depicted diagram shows that the second equation and the third equation coincides. Third diagram shows that there is no solution because all the equations are not consistent with each other. The fourth one again shows no solution because two equations are not consistent with each other. Sorry. The fifth one here shows that all the equations are same. Now the sixth one shows that all of these equations coincide at an infinite number of points. So there are an infinite number of solutions. So again in this one, the first equation is not the first equation is not consistent with the second and third equation, and the second and third equation are same. The last diagram here depicts that all the equations are consistent with each other, but all three of them together are inconsistent. So as we can see, there were only three equations and three variables, but this has given us such a wide variety of diagrams, or sorry, a wide variety of graphs. So this just shows that. And by the way, three equations and three variables is a very simplified example of this. Linear algebra usually deals with multiple variables and multiple equations. So we can see how complex this branch of mathematics gets. The second one is calculus. According to Britannica, calculus is a branch of mathematics concerned with the calculation of instantaneous rates of change, differential calculus, and the summation of infinitely many small factors to determine some whole, integral calculus. The word calculus is derived from the Latin word small stone, because it is like understanding something by looking at small pieces. So we have all studied calculus, and this one is an example of differential calculus. This shows a graph, and the graph is very magnified here because we have to look at a very small element. So this is a very magnified view of a graph, and as we can see, we are attempting to find out the tangent. Now this one is an example of integral calculus. In this, we take small strips and like add them all to get the area of the entire region A of x. Then there is logic. So propositional and first order logic is basically the mathematics of logics. This is a bit complicated, so I will not go into this one since this is not in our syllabus. Then there is set theory. So according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, set theory is the mathematical theory of well-determined collections called sets of objects that are called members or elements of the set. Pure set theory deals exclusively with sets, so that only sets under consideration are those whose members are also sets. The theory of hereditarily finite sets, namely those finite sets whose elements are also finite sets, the elements of which are also finite, and so on, is formally equivalent to arithmetic. So the essence of set theory is the study of infinite sets, and therefore can be defined as the mathematical theory of actual as opposed to potential infinite. In this one, we basically talk about two types of set theories. The first one is the classical set theory, which takes the assumption that all the elements of a set are also a set, and all the elements of this set will also be a set. The second one is that theory which is more relevant in daily life, that is hereditarily finite set theory. This this theory takes the assumption that all the sets are finite, and the sets which are inside a given set are also finite, and so on. And clearly this one is closer to reality because this deals with finite as opposed to infinite. So this is basically a pictorial representation of set theory, A and B being a set. So the first one shows A, the second one is negation of A, then B, negation of B. This is A or B, also known as A union B. This is not A and not B, that is negation of A union B. This is A and B, so A union B, not A and B. This is negation of A union B. Then there is if A, then B, if B, then A, if A, then nahi, B if and only if A. This is asymmetric difference B. A if and only if not B. Then there is A and not B, which means A's A's intersection with negation of B, B's and B and not A, B's intersection with negation of A, tautology and contradiction. These are again the symbols which are related to set. So we can have a brief look here. The intersection symbol here shows A intersection B. Then there is A union B, A difference B. A minus B is basically the intersection of, sorry, the union of, no, the intersection of A and negation of B. Then there is symmetric difference, there is equality, and subset and proper subset. This one shows some more symbols. So epsilon means a member of, then this symbol here is proper subset. A is a set that is contained in another set B. This symbol is subset. So A is a set that is contained in or equal to another set. Then there is this symbol of proper subset, and this is superset, that is set B includes set C. Then there is graph theory. A graph is a pictorial representation of data of any kind, which represents the data in simpler manner, enabling the observer to compare between the prospects more effectively. We will have a better look at graph theory further in this lecture. We will have a look at these two. Now let us look at statistics. Statistics is a very interesting and one of the most important branches of mathematics. So what makes it interesting is that it has widespread use in our daily life. I mean, our life won't be possible without a advanced knowledge of statistics. Let's see why. So according to Oxford Dictionary of Statistical Terms, statistics is the discipline of mathematics that is concerned with the collection, organization, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of data. In applying statistics to a scientific, industrial, or social problem, it is conventional to begin with a statistical population or a statistical model to be studied. Statistics deals with every aspect of data, including the planning of data collection in terms of design of survey and experiment. Now, collection of data. The first step of any statistical survey is collection of data. So data is collected using surveys. Sample survey methods are used to collect data from observational studies, and experimental design methods are used to collect data from experimental studies. Whenever statisticians use data from a sample, that is subset of population, to make statement about a population, they are performing statistical inference. Now statistical inference is something which is very important. So first of all, an advanced knowledge of estimation and hypothesis is required, and these testings are required to make statistical inferences. Now why are they important? Because we can nearly never make exact assumptions in fields such as economics, finance, biology, business, and engineering. So is inference is can be said to be an assumption, or no, a better term for inference would be, so inference is basically when we look at a small set of data and predict things for a larger set of data. And this is very important in fields such as biology, chemistry, physics, engineering, business, and economics. So now we have collected the data. Let us look at organization, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of data. So the first method of this is tabular method. So as we can see, this one shows the marks, the interval of marks, the frequency, and the cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency being meaning that how many of students have appeared before this or in this strata. Now this is a very outdated method, not very used today. Why? Because of this reason. For graphical analysis. Now graphical analysis is the simplest way of representing a data set to a common person. It is very lucrative because it has visual representation of data, which is always more appealing than numbers. It is easier to understand that data, and it gives the viewer a brief idea of what the dataset says without have which would have required a great deal of work in numerical or tabular analysis. Note that we also read about graph theory in uh, engineering mathematics, so we will have a better look at it now. So this is a bar graph, a pretty simple bar graph if we look at it. This shows the people and their favorite type of movie. Now this is a bit more advanced bar graph. Why? Because this does not just represent one type of data. This does not just represent the number of people liking a particular movie. This represents multiple forms of data like clothing, equipment and accessories, all these three, all inside one graph. So this is a slightly better form than that. Now let us look at pie chart. Pie chart is something we already know. So it represents the fraction of people doing this as a fraction of circle. This one is recommended diet. So the fraction of diet which requires to be fruit is 30%, which is represented as a part of circle. Now this is line graph. Line graph is a very interesting type of graph. Why? First of all, it is usually used to measure things which change over time. In the given example, it is used for measuring unit price of a particular thing, but it is also generally used to measure temperature. We can see line charts, line graphs of temperature, and this is because it can give us a variety of data over a huge period of time. For example, in this case, this graph shows the data of 6 products and their values changing over a span of 6 months. So this can provide lots of data in limited space. That is why line graph is a very good type of graph. Next we explore is histogram. Histogram is kind of like a bar graph, except that the width of the bar is directly proportional to the class interval. So as you can see, 1.5 to 1.4 to 1.5, this one is slightly wider than the next strata, 1.5 to 1.55. And because of this, so the reason for this is that this given area will give you the actual value of people who belong in this sample. Likewise, this area will give you the actual value of people who belong in this sample. Now let us look at an undirected graph. Now what this shows is 6 cities: Madison, Beloit, Delafield, Milwaukee, Green Bay and Appleton. And this graph basically shows the distance between these cities and how you can go between them. The arrows in this are not of any use, because if you can go from Madison to Appleton, you can also go from Appleton to Madison. This is basically a route. This is an undirected graph. Now let us look at a directed graph. This shows the social network graph, how there is a girl called Vaidehi, and this shows who follows her and who she follows on Twitter. So she follows Vaidehi follows Beyonce, but Beyonce does not follow her back. In this we see Jeff follows Vaidehi, but Vaidehi does not follow her back. Although Vaidehi follows Avi and Avi follows Vaidehi too. So this is a directed graph. This has two directions. The next method is numerical measure, the numerical method of measuring statistics. A variety of numerical measures are used to summarize data. So these quantities, these parameters which are used for measuring data are mean, median, mode, percentile, range, variance, and standard deviation. These are not new terms, we have learned about them in previous classes, but still let us have a brief look. So mean is basically the measure of central location for the data. So median is the central term when we arrange the data in an ascending order from small value to large value. So if there is an odd number of data values, median is the middle value, and if there is an even number of data values, median is the average of the two middle values. The third tendency is mood. Third measure is mood, and it is the data of a value that occurs with highest frequency. So this is a formula of mean. For ungrouped data we can easily calculate, but for grouped data we see it is the summation of product of frequency and midpoint divided by total number of scores. Similarly, this is the measure of median in a grouped data. This is just a formula. L is the lower limit of median class, n being the number of observations, h being the class size, f being the frequency, and cf being the cumulative frequency of the preceding median class. This is again the formula of mood in a grouped distribution. Now percentile. So percentile is basically the form of is percentile is usually used in standardized tests, and here is how it works. So if you are said to be in a if you are said to have p% of data values fall below the pth percentile, this means that, for example, if you are at 70 percentile, this basically means that out of the 100 students who gave test, 29 are in front of you, you are the 70th one, and then there are 70 students behind you. And we all know this about this kind because percentile system is the type of grading which is used in JEE mains. Then there is range, the difference between the largest value and the smallest value. It is simplest measure of variability of data. Two further measures of variability of data are variance and standard deviation. These are basically the formula of them. Sigma square is variance, and as you can see, variance is sigma xi minus mean whole square divided by n. X bar here is mean, as you can see here. Standard deviation, simply put, is the square root of variance. Now why are these are used? So standard deviation and variance basically tells us about how much the data has varied. Mean only gives us about uh, mean only gives us the value about which the data has varied, but the extent of data being varied, that is given by standard deviation. So let me give you an example. Let us have 5 students in a class. In one case, all 5 of them scored 5 marks out of 10. So the mean is 5 and there is no variation. But in other case, 2 of them scored 3 marks, 2 of them scored 7 marks, and 1 of them scored 5 marks. Now the mean is still 5, but as you can see, the variation is much high. Now there is some variation. Now this will be reflected in standard deviation and variance. So that was it with statistics. Now let us look at mathematical modeling. A mathematical model is the display, evaluation, and analysis of a system or a situation by using mathematical concepts and usage of mathematical tools to further analyze, simplify, and propose required changes in system. So the process of developing a mathematical model is called mathematical modeling, and this is the soul of various fields of science such as biology, physics, chemistry, as well as engineering, such as computer science, engineering mathematics, and mechanical engineering. Mathematical modeling is basically taking any situation or any system you have and converting it into a mathematical system, because it is always easier to find solutions in a mathematical system. Now, what exactly are the benefits of mathematical modeling? They are that this not only helps us explain the effects of different components, but also helps us make future predictions. Now, mathematical modeling is the most appropriate way to approach a problem, because mathematics is completely free from human bias. So this is what Pythagoras was fascinated about. Human biases tend to make error in certain so the human bias tends to make error in certain fields, but mathematical modeling is free of these errors. Now, mathematical models are quite accurate and they have been used for past many years by research facilities and intelligence agencies. Applications of mathematical modeling. Now, we know that biology is a relatively non-mathematical field as compared to physics and chemistry, but still, let us have a look at how mathematical modeling is used in biology. The human genome is a complete set of nucleic acid and sequence for humans, encoded as DNA within 23 chromosome pairs and cell nuclei in a small DNA molecule found within individual mitochondria. So here is how we know this. Because of this mathematical model. As you can see, this here is a mathematical formulation. Now, since we know that there are 23 chromosomes, we only know that there are 23 chromosomes and such because of this mathematical model. So here is how mathematics plays a huge role even in relatively non-mathematical fields. Now, mathematical modeling finds its use in various fields like physics, chemistry, chemical engineering, biology, astronomy, artificial intelligence. Then engineering fields like computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. Then economics, finance, architecture. Then criminal science, medicine, and political sciences. Even mathematical modeling is very important in political sciences. And when we switch on the news channels during some election time, we always see things like exit poll and opinion poll. These are all calculated on the basis of mathematical modeling. So this is how mathematics plays a role even in politics. Then the last topic of this presentation, operations research. What exactly is this? So the Institute of Operation Research and Management Sciences defines this as a discipline that deals with the application of advanced analytical methods to help make better decisions. So basically we use mathematics here for better analysis to help us make better decisions. Now here is the procedure. Identify the problem to be solved. Construct a model around the problem that resembles real world and variables. The model here that is being talked about, this is obviously a mathematical model. So use this model to derive a solution, test each solution, and then implement the solution to actual problem. So basically we develop a small size model, a mathematical model, or maybe even a small size simulation, and then we run these each solutions in them, and we find an appropriate solution for the situation, and then we apply it to real life. The concept of this arose during World War II by military planners. After the war, the techniques used in their operation research were applied to addressing problems in business, government, and society. The key point here is that this operations research is now used to address problem in business, government, and society. So it has found such a widespread use in modern society that it is used in business, government, and even in our daily life. Theoretical and numerical analysis provides insights, answers, and guidance successful for originating application. Also, do make a note that operation research is not strictly a branch of mathematics. It is a branch of maths and science. But obviously, mathematics plays a huge role in operation research. So, what exactly are the characteristics of this? The first one is optimization. Optimization is the aim of our research. The optimization is the aim of why we do this whole, the purpose of the operation research. Then there is simulation. This involves building models or replications in order to try out and test solutions before applying them. For example, if you have to do a research on the perfect modeling of drainage system, the operation research would also include that you make a small scale drainage system just to see how the water goes and then come up with a good solution. And probability and statistics. As we know, probability and statistics are the lifeline of this because uh, let us say that in we take 100 cases and in 99 of them it works and in one of them it works partially. So is the solution correct or not? That is determined solely by statistics. So statistics even plays a huge role here. Now, what are the uses of this? This can be used for scheduling and time management, for urban and agricultural planning, for network optimization and engineering. So network optimization means for deciding which cities to connect with a route to optimize the situation by using minimum amount of route to connect maximum amount of cities. Then optimization of product and supply cost and quality to maximize profit. And then risk management, it is used by government. Now this is a very simple scale, a very small scale example of operation research. We have studied this with the name linear programming. Now here are the four subject conditions. 2x plus y is less than 6, which is represented by this line over here. X is less than equal to 2, represented by this line, and the space less than equal to 2 is this one. Then x is greater than equal to 0, y greater than equal to 0, basically the first quadrant. When we do this graphical analysis, I'm sorry, when we do this graphical analysis, we come to the solution that z is maximum, z being 11x plus 7y. This is the thing which we have to maximize. So z is maximum at 0, 6. This is our solution. Now this seems rather easy, but there are a lot of challenges faced in this. For example, let us look at this example. This seemed very easy, but the challenges faced are that we seldom see linear dependence of quantities upon variables. Then in practical cases, several quantities are to be optimized. In this one, only one quantity had to be optimized, but in reality, several quantities have to be optimized. So there are a lot of unknown factors or factors which cannot be calculated, which pose as a challenge in finding appropriate solution. So these are the challenges faced in operation research. So that was the end of my presentation. Here are the references which I used. Another slide of references. Thank you for watching.